Hey, good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Worcester City Council held this November 21st, 2022. It's after 7:30 p.m. This meeting is in council chambers, but is also being streamed live on YouTube. Next meeting will be Monday, December 5th, 2022, which will be the penultimate regular meeting for this calendar year 2022. I'm not sure where the year went, so. That being said, Mr. Paulo, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Cavan.
Here.
Ms. Knappich. Mr. Myers.
Here.
Mr. Reynolds.
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mr. Ansel.
Here.
And Ms. Warden.
Here.
We do have a quorum, and I'd be amiss to not say that the Ms. Knappich did contact Bob and I and said she wouldn't be here and didn't want to infect us with whatever she's under the weather with. I just hope she gets well enough so that she can enjoy her Thanksgiving. So at this time, the agenda will remain as presented, and then I would ask you to stand and join the members of City Council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion to go in executive session. I apologize, everyone that's here. We're going to try to have a brief executive session and then get on with the legislation that you're all here. Unfortunately, we don't have any hot chocolate to help those who are still cold from winter wonderland, but I heard it was a marvelous event, and Main Street should be very proud, so thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Reynolds to go into executive session pursuant to our ORC 121.22G3. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ansel. This is a roll call vote. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Cavan.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Mr. Ansel.
Yes.
And Ms. Warden.
Yes.
Okay, we are officially in the executive session, so at the moment we'll go off the record and adjourn to the conference room. Time on that clock tomorrow.
Would you straighten it too, please? That drives me crazy. It's crooked, if possible.
You set it to Greenwich time.
Is there anything else you'd like them to do while?
Dust it, please? No, I'm kidding.
All right, does someone have a motion?
So motion to come out of this executive session.
Okay, motion by Mr. Cavan to come out of executive session. And
Second.
Mr. Sanders, second it. Would you please call the roll on the coming out of executive session?
Mr. Cavan.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Mr. Ansel.
Yes.
And Ms. Warden.
Yes.
All right, we are now officially out of executive session. Now we are back on the record. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of November 7, 2022.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Warden to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cavan. All in favor of approving the minutes of November 7th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The minutes are approved. Mr. Mayor, welcome, and I'm glad you're thawed out from winter wonderland.
It took a little while to get thought out from that, but it was still a wonderful evening for sure. So, council members, nice to see all of you. Thank you for your service to our community. Just hopefully a quick update on where we've been since our last council meeting. Main Street Wooster, and Shannon's here to attest to it. We held our annual meeting. It was on Wednesday, November 9th at the new offices of Ray and Associates on North Market Street. The meeting was a celebration of all good things that we have happening in Wooster especially in our downtown. It was an appropriate site since Weaver Custom Homes and Ray and Associates worked together to remove the old Horns Nursing Home building and create a new office and numerous condo homes on the site. Wooster Community Hospital Board held a budget workshop on November 10th to review and approve the submittal of the hospital budget proposal that is in your budget workbook, a very large and important piece of our city organization. On November 15th, Mike Mariola Restaurants had a ribbon cutting for the new Caribou Coffee shop on Cleveland Road. Wooster is honored to host the first U.S.-based franchise located in the nation. The business opened to the public on November 17th. Congratulations and thanks to Mike and company for investing in our city and helping to improve this area of town. We got to celebrate with Kevin Day, president of the Western Reserve Group Insurance Company, on his retirement on Thursday, November 17th. Congratulations, Kevin, for a great career and your contributions to the city of Worcester. Western Reserve had the Bell Professional Building that is now in the hospital's hands as an addition to the hospital campus up on Cleveland Road. I was made aware of an article by the Ohio History Connection today by Shannon, sent out an email, about traveling scenic State Route 250, which mentions Wooster. It says, Wooster U.S. Route 250 is perhaps at its most scenic point, a roughly 30-minute drive from Ashland to the Wayne County seat of Wooster, another beautiful college town. Worcester's downtown is its pride and joy. No wonder. It boasts interesting shops, history, and one of the strongest Main Street programs in the state. We thought this was a good enough article that we've actually posted it on our website. So it's on the WorcesterOH.com website, and if you go under news, it's on there. And it's an interesting article. It talks about State Route 250 going from Lake Erie down to the Ohio River and how that passes through and part of all the communities they're on. Our city celebrated Window Wonderland and put together by Main Street Worcester again. Shannon, boy, you're getting all kinds of accolades tonight, huh? The downtown merchants in our city organization. Santa found his way to Worcester again and came off the Briggs Financial Building with the help of our fire department and visited with all the kids brave enough to wait through the cold. Congratulations to Steve and Chris Matthew on lighting of the Christmas tree this year, and thanks to all who made this magic happen. And at this point, I'll turn this report over to Joel Montgomery and Andre Doherty to comment on the budget that is in front of you tonight. Joel and Andre, with the help of our city managers and finance department, do the heavy lifting in putting the budget together. So I've asked them to highlight things that they want you to know. So Joel, I'll start with you.
You're the captain.
I do want to thank the managers who worked all year long, keeping costs in line, but also working really hard, really since about August, in putting together the foundation or the framework for the budget that you have before you. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things, mostly from the budget narrative that's in your budget document, and to say that most 2022 revenues exceeded 2021 revenues through 3 quarters of 22. That includes lodging or bed taxes. And that overall, at least through the first 3 quarters, our revenue funds exceeded the budget, and our expenditures were less than the budget. So I think you're used to seeing that. We also received our American Rescue Plan Act funds. Those were received and those were budgeted. Some have been expended. Some were budgeted for projects yet that you'll see later on. One significant thing that does affect the budget, and you were aware when you passed the collective bargaining agreements for our unions at the end of 2021, we had probably our largest vacancy rate towards the end of 2021 that we've ever seen at the city. We now have the lowest vacancy rate that I can remember in many, many years. So you'll probably see less of a gap when you look at some of the personnel numbers, because we always budget for 100% of our personnel and benefits, even though people retire, people leave, and it takes a while to fill those. And that usually creates a larger gap from what we actually spend to the, to what the budget is, but you'll see a little bit less of a gap because we're pretty full. And that's different than you've seen in years past. Just by way of example, starting in 21 through 2022, we had 47 new positions that we filled between retirements and people leaving. So there are no new positions in the budget. So the only differences you'll see from last year's is just some calculation and reallocation things. So no new positions. But I will say we spent a lot of time so far this year doing some internal strategic planning, organizational, community-wide economic development efforts internally, because our goal is we want to continue to raise the bar, continue to serve our growing city as we get more diverse and more complex and larger. So you will see in the budget some real intentional things in there regarding economic development funds. We also plan on initiating our comprehensive plan process, which we do once every 10 years. So that plan affects everything. That affects, when we're looking forward at infrastructure, it affects our organization, our land use planning, our city services. So you'll see that as you look through the budget, that we're taking those things into account as we do real strategic and intentional planning looking forward. So I just want to point that out. One other thing, when we're looking at those things, looking at the future, looking at how we might grow and expand, you'll see a lot of capital projects and a lot in the water wastewater side. You've seen some of those already as we move forward as far as the design phase, but that's because as we're really in accordance with how we've been planning over the last 20 years or so, when you start going beyond 60–75% of your plant capacity, we need to be looking ahead, and we don't want to be reactionary. We want to plan ahead, make sure we have capacity for our existing businesses and residential growth. So you'll see a lot of those kind of projects, more capital, I think, than we've had in quite a while. So Andre might speak to that a little bit. We are also starting to see the effects when it comes to inflation. So you'll see a little bit of that in our O&M. We know, based on talking to some of our suppliers, that we're going to be seeing some significant increases in things like chemicals, for our treatment plants, and utilities, electric and gas. So those are reflective. So that's probably the biggest increase you'll see. It would be due to those inflationary pressures there. So I just want to point that out. One other thing I wanted to point out real quickly. You're familiar that we do a 10-year infrastructure strategic plan that's in the back of your book. We've added a sheet there. We always had streets. We always had water, sewer, storm. We have added a section for large facilities. So you'll see on there the Fire Station 1 renovations, which are planned. But you also see things like Christmas Run Pool. Somewhere out in the future, Freelander Pool will need to be renovated. So with it just makes a placemaker somewhere in the future, just so that we know there's things like community center renovation that maybe we look at out in the future, 5–10 years, those kind of things. So we felt like there were enough of those types of projects that we should really put those on paper so you can see those and at least they're on the radar looking forward. And the other thing I'll say, and Andre might talk about this as well, because of not only are you going to see a lot of infrastructure and capital, I know Andre put together a lot of things that show that we've also probably have the greatest amount of grants and other funding than we've had in the history of the last 15–20 years. So there's some extra information there that shows you where these funding sources are coming from. Things like the TIF, you're aware of, but a lot of grants, ARP funding, those kind of things. So just wanted to point those things out.
Now we'll turn to Andre to
Well,
share
it's
his.
interesting, because, yes, so 2023 budget year is the year of CapEx, capital investment in our infrastructure and equipment. Just give us some perspective, I looked over the last 16 budget years, which would be 2007 through 22. Our highest year that we budget for capital was $22.7 million in that 16-year period. 2 years, we were over 20 million, and the lowest was about 6.5 million during that 16-year span. The average or the mean in that 16-year period was about 13.3 million, and I think the median was like 11.8 million of investment. This year, 2023, there's proposed, not including the hospital, 38.3 million. So I've been here 20 years, and it's been the highest that I've ever seen. That being said, as Joel had mentioned earlier, well, first of all, what are we going to spend this on? What are we going to invest in? 6.9 million we're going to invest in lands and buildings, 2.6 million vehicles, about 340,000 equipment, $500,000 into bike paths and sidewalks, about 400,000 into traffic signals, just under 3.9 million in road improvements. We're going to increase our capacity of the water system. We're spending about 7.4 million there, and we're proposing sanitary sewer improvements of about 15.8 million, and storm sewer system improvements about 460,000, just a little over $38 million. That being said, Joel had mentioned, so about $6.2 million in grants and other monies will go toward this project. Our local funds will be about $8.9 million. When I say that, our local funds will be tax dollars, water funds, sewer funds for those prospective projects, and about 23 million will be from debt funded. And that will make up the $38 million. So that's pretty huge. The other thing I would just mention too, with respect to the general fund, the revenue side, we're about a 5%. I think our budget about 4.6 in revenues increase, and I think the expense side was about 8% overall on the general fund. That's just, so that was all I really wanted to cover, but I'm glad that it just worked out perfect. The hospital met, and I was able to, normally it's 2 weeks later I have that hospital data for you, but they met early this year, and I was able to get all that data in the budget packet, so.
So that's sort of a quick review by the two experts that have put the numbers together in the booklet for us. So we will be having committee meetings, I'm sure, where we'll go into much deeper depth of the budget, but that gives you an overview of what's being presented tonight. So with that, President Beitendijk, we are done from the administrative side.
Thank you, Mayor and Administration. We have no petitions. Mr. Druschel did sign up, but since he spoke at the Laws and Ordinance meeting, he felt that he had said what he wanted to say, but he still remains here if we have any questions when we get into the legislation under new business. That brings us to committee reports, and Mr. Reynolds, you want to give a brief synopsis of tonight's Laws and Ordinance Committee?
Yes, we had a Laws and Ordinance Committee this evening at 6:30. Ms. Warden and I were present. As you indicated, Ms. Knappich was unable to attend because she's not feeling her best and decided she didn't want to share whatever she has with the rest of us. But I think all the council members were in attendance in the audience. We talked about the issue with R5 zoning, which are addressed in different ways with Ordinance 2022-34 and 2022-55, both of which are set for first reading tonight. We had presentations from the administration and from Mr. Druschel speaking as to some of the issues there, and I'm sure we'll hear more on those tonight during the regular council meeting. But I think it was at least informative for me. I think we've talked individually maybe with the administration, with Mr. Druschel prior to tonight, but I think it was a good opportunity to have us all in the same room and hear the same thing. So thank you for attending, and thank Jennifer for being available for the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, for that synopsis. We have no unfinished business, although next week we will. This brings us to new business. The first item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-33. It'll be presented by Mr. Sanders, and it is slated for 3 readings. Before I get to you, Mr. Sanders, I'll ask Mr. Paulo to please read the title.
Ordinance number 2022-33, an ordinance appropriating from various funds to individual accounts for the current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Worcester for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, and allowing for immediate enactment.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, as we heard previously from the administration, the excerpt or the Reader's Digest version of some highlights of the budget, which is what this ordinance is, in light of the fact that you all just got your books this evening, and we do have a Finance Committee meeting scheduled for December 5th at 6:30. We'll continue to, please look through this. If you have questions, get a hold of the administration, and we'll delve deeper into this on the 5th of December.
All right, thank you. We'll consider ordinance number 2022-33 as having its first reading. That brings us to resolution number 2022-51. It too will be presented by Mr. Sanders. It's slated for 3 readings. Mr. Paulo, would you please read the title?
Resolution number 2022-51, a resolution authorizing agreements with various applicants for the use of economic development monies.
Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this is again, the annual request for the use of economic development monies that we receive from, as a group request from Main Street, from the Worcester Area Chamber of Commerce and the Wayne County Convention and Business Visitors Bureau. Convention and Visitors Bureau, let me get that straight. As we've done in the past, on the first $50,000 of bed tax money that we receive in the city, there's an allocation percentages of 57.5% for Main Street, 37.5% for the Chamber, and 5% for the Wayne County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And we've done this in the past many years, and because of the assistance that they provide the city in terms of the economic development things that they provide, as we discussed, one of the event the other night for the downtown with Main Street. That was a lovely event. Could have been about 20 degrees warmer, but it was a lot of fun anyways. And then after we exceed $50,000, then there's still a continuation of funds that goes in terms of percentages. That's part of the resolution. Again, this is something that we've done many years in the past. I don't know. At this point, I hesitate to drag it on because I don't know that there's really any real reason to have any further continued conversation about it. I guess with that, I would just motion to suspend the rules of council, place this on 3rd and final reading.
All right, Mr. Sanders moved to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Myers. Would you please call the roll on the suspension of the rules?
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Cavan.
Yes.
The rules have been suspended. I look to you again, Mr. Sanders.
I would motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Sanders. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ansel. And now open it up for discussion.
Mr. Sanders,
Yes.
could we open it up to allow the representatives here, if they would like to say anything?
Oh,
or say
absolutely.
Anything that they might have?
Absolutely.
Maybe an introduction from,
Samira Zimmerly with the Worcester Area Chamber of Commerce. I just want to say thank you for the longtime support. We couldn't do what we do without your assistance, so it means a lot to us that you consider this every year. We try to do as much as we can to work together and collaborate, but your support means a lot. And I'm here if there's any questions.
Thank you.
I'm Shannon Waller with Main Street Worcester and appreciate the opportunity to speak. Because these are economic development funds, I wanted to share with you some of the impact that our efforts have resulted in this past year. We estimate that we had about 20,800 visitors over the course of our 93 events that we had this past year. And that's actually a record number. Last year we had these events, we had 82 in 2021. I'm not counting the pandemic year, but we had 46 attractions in 2019. So we've really upped the game as far as bringing people into downtown. Now, in 2020, the College of Wooster estimated that each attendee to one of our events would spend $26.58 over and above any cost of admission, and ours are almost all free events. And I was considering whether I wanted to have a little inflationary adjustment for that, but I figured I'd rather go conservative because if inflation's hitting people, they might spend less rather than more. So I'll stick with that $26.58. So that's a total economic impact of over $550,000 based on our efforts. And so we're very grateful for the support of the city. We want to continue that kind of reinvestment. And I can give you another quick anecdote. One of the things that we invested in this year was a new position of program manager for Main Street Worcester, and our new hire oversaw the Farmers Market, Second Saturdays, and Main Street Music, those series that we present every year. And it's a little tricky to get metrics on the economic impact of those kinds of events, but I can tell you that the Farmers Market vendors had a bump of about 25% over the years that they had previously, and so that tells me we probably had at least 25% more visitors at the farmers market because we invested more in the personnel and the marketing and just in the presentation that we have. So we want to continue on that trajectory, and again, we're very grateful for the support of the city. I cannot tell you how crucial the city administration, the city police, the city fire department, the county health department have been in partnering with us to make sure these events go successfully. So we're very grateful for all the partnership we do, and we appreciate your faith in us.
Thank you.
Marty Starkey with the Wayne County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I would first like to introduce to you Rob Wells, who will be the new Convention and Visitors Bureau Director, or he is, I guess. So I'm just lame duck right now. I just want to say also thank you. One of the things that we do to kind of get a grasp on where we are with the economic impact of tourism is we do a study every other year with the state of Ohio. And the latest one was in 2021, which came back that tourism generates almost $300 million in Wayne County over a year's time. As you all know, that's a lot of money. And that trickles down into, of course, taxes and other things. And one of the things that we see happening are all the new events that are coming to the area. You know, the event center at the fairgrounds has been a really help to us. It offers a larger space for some different kinds of events. We have lost a couple to other areas, but we're kind of just smiling about that because we feel pretty confident they'll come back to our area when they see the difference in our fairgrounds and other fairgrounds and the location of how easy it is to get to our fairgrounds and bring groups in. And of course, those people that have events at the fairgrounds stay at the hotels, which is what generates the bed tax. So I just want to say it's been a really great 28 years. I've loved every minute of it, and I know Rob's going to do a great job, and I hope you all work as well with him as you have with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to miss you, Marty, and I'm going to say that no one does more with less than Marty over the years. And if you ever need someone who can squeeze a nickel and make it go far, Marty is the person to get. and she has a nose for bargains too. So thank you for all you do. We'll miss you. I'm sure Rob will do a great job, but I don't envy him stepping into your shoes, because 28 years, you probably learned a few things. So the institutional knowledge that you gathered is immense, but I'm sure you'll be around if he would need a suggestion. But enjoy your retirement. It's well earned, and enjoy your new house. Anything else? No. Seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Cavan.
Yes.
Resolution number 2022-51. Thank you all for the marvelous job you do for promoting the city and the county, and that article that the mayor referenced is just because of your efforts that people recognize what a special place this is. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for coming.
And you don't have to stick around. You've waited patiently.
Good night.
Hey, Marty, remember to tell Rob whenever I stop by, he has to buy me a cup of coffee, okay? All right, that brings us to ordinance number 2022-34. It'll be presented by Mr. Reynolds. It is slated for 3 readings. If you would, Mr. Paulo, please read the title.
Ordinance number 2022-34, an ordinance to approve and adopt the recommendations of the Planning Commission and amend the codified ordinances in accordance with those recommendations.
Mr. Reynolds, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. We talked about this before the meeting. It was the subject of our committee meeting of the Laws and Ordinance Committee. This is proposed changes that address the R5 zoning district that was designed to deal with mobile home parks. And due to changes made in 2018, we prohibited expansion of mobile home parks in an R5 district, which inadvertently left an owner with no use for land that wasn't already devoted to mobile home park use. So the administration has presented this as a resolution of that problem. We had a good discussion at the committee meeting. We need to leave this on first reading tonight because there's a public hearing on this that will be part of the next council meeting on December 5th. Mr. Druschel was there to address at the committee meeting tonight. I trust that he will be there on December 5th. That'll be part of the regular council meeting at 7:30 to address that issue again, and I would encourage anybody else that wants to speak on the subject to come and make themselves heard that night. I should also note, and we'll probably kind of repeat this discussion again, the same issue is addressed in a little different way with, and again, my apologies, Mr. Myers, for possibly stealing some of your thunder, but Resolution 2022-55, which is item 6 tonight, also is on that same topic in a slightly different format. Now, I'll leave the rest for Mr. Myers to expound on when we get to that point.
All right. Any further discussion? I know we have to keep this on first reading, so we'll consider ordinance number 2022-34 as having its first reading. That brings us to 2022-52. It'll be presented by Mr. Ansel. It is budgeted, so will not require suspension of the rules, but does require that I ask Mr. Paulo to please read the title.
Resolution number 2022-52, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to enter into a contract with W.W. Williams for the supply and installation of emergency generator controls and switchgear upgrades for the Waste Recovery Resource Facility and allowing for immediate enactment.
Mr. Ansel, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is ongoing service maintenance associated with the Waste Recovery Resource Facility. As noted in the request for agenda item, this is to contract with W.W. Williams for the supply and installation of the emergency generator controls and switchgear upgrades at the WRRF. So very critical. We do have a service contract with W.W. Williams. They're familiar with the operations and the ongoing service requirements at the waste recovery facility. And the interesting note here is the specialized switchgear and emergency generator is provided by one supplier. So W.W. Williams will purchase the equipment at the $119,330, and there is a $5,162 installation fee for the ordering, the delivery, the installation for the required maintenance. So it's a total amount of $124,492. So it's coming to council review because it exceeds the $50,000 expenditure. And while we could purchase the equipment on a competitive bid situation, the cost would be the same because they're buying from the same supplier. And if we would try to substitute and intermingle non-consistent componentry, there would be complexities there that could result in virtually thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars more to, mix those components. So this is very straightforward. The work amount, the installation and coordination amount of $6,000 combined with the component and the equipment themselves is very reasonable. This does have an element of urgency because currently the lead time for this replacement equipment is in excess of 60 weeks. So that being noted, and Joel was sponsoring this, if there are any technical question, but this equipment has served its useful life. It needs replacement based on the recommendation of the expert, and we have this in the budget to make this acquisition and would like to proceed this evening. So that being noted, I would motion to adopt Resolution 2022-34, ordinance, 2022-34, or 52.
It's resolution number 2022-52.
52.
Okay.
Thank
So motion to adopt by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cavan. Any further discussion?
If I could just ask a quick question, how reliable is the current backup generator? I mean, we're looking at over a year, so we're good. It's,
The generator's fine. This is the controls and the switch gear that go along with that.
and is that all?
Our currently what we have is functioning, and this will be a backup so that because it did go out for a little while.
Oh, okay, so it's a backup to, we're gonna keep it in,
Right.
I
So
got you,
What we
okay.
have right now is working. The issue is the only thing you can do if that goes out, if you want to maintain backup power, is to have another unit you can slide in and do that. So we were able to get the current one fixed. We have this one that needs repaired in order to have that backup.
thank you.
Seeing nothing further, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Ansel,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
And Sanders.
Yes.
Resolution number 2022-52 passes. Resolution number 2022-53 will be presented by Mr. Sanders. My note says it's slated for 3 readings. Before we get back to you, Mr. Sanders, Ms. DiPaolo, would you please read the title?
Resolution number 2022-53, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to renew a professional or technical services contract for the purchase of a financial management information system and allowing for immediate enactment.
All right, Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this is a renewal of our enterprise resource software, which is used by the accounting, finance, and budgeting with Tyler Technologies. In the past, they've offered us a multi-year renewal. This year, they're only giving us a one-year renewal at a 3% increase, which at this point is a total of $72,912.67. At this point, it really is fairly self-explanatory. We just need to go ahead or we just need to proceed with this. And I would motion to suspend the rules of council and place this on third and final reading.
All right, motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Sanders. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Warden. Would you please call the roll, Mr. Polo?
Warden,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
And Ansel.
Yes.
The rules have been suspended. Mr. Sanders.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Sanders. Is there any discussion?
I have a question for Mr. Dardia. I note when you explain the alternatives as being ledger sheets and pencils. Did you cost that out? I mean,
It's very expensive, but it is an alternative.
I wanted to recognize your effort there. That was well done.
I have a question also, Mr. Sanders. What is the functional, useful life of this software upgrade, Andre?
Well, it's just a continuation, so we originally had a 5-year contract with them, and so they still have a lot of clients on this platform, so I'm not sure why they insist on just a 1-year agreement, but.
That would lead me to believe that the functional, useful life is coming to
Well,
an
I mean,
end, so.
I think they may be trying to gear customers to go to, I think it's called, to another platform. But there's so many customers on this current platform that they have to obviously serve.
And how long has it been in functionality?
Well, we've been there 5 years, but they've been a lot longer than that.
This software?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are you happy with the software as it is? Okay, that's good enough for me, but I don't get a vote.
And it was $50,000 cheaper than our provider prior to that 5-year contract. This last 5-year contract, there was no increases in the rate, so we had 5 years of one rate, same rate.
Good.
So.
So they've treated
6
it-
years, it went up 1 year, 3%.
All right, seeing no further discussion?
I need a second.
Oh,
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
So,
Hit it.
Good catch.
and would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Warden,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
And Ansel.
Yes.
All right, resolution number 2022-53 passes. Final piece of legislation will be presented by Mr. Myers. It's slated for 3 readings. Mr. Paulo, for one last time, would you please read a title of this final piece of legislation?
Resolution number 2022-55, a resolution initiating the amendment of Chapter 1107, zoning districts of the codified ordinances of the City of Worcester, Ohio, by submitting said amendment to Planning Commission for review and recommendation.
Mr. Myers, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Beitendijk. Yeah, this, as Mr. Reynolds had said, it's similar to, not similar, but it's part of that whole issue regarding the zoning of R5. This does not preclude the passing of the ordinance that you have recommended as -34. Just to be clear, though, this is not council taking action on this zoning change. This is simply to ask the Planning and Zoning Commission to review some potential alternatives. There were actually several suggestions this evening of potential methods to help limit the risk the city might incur while allowing some additional use of the property as it is currently zoned R5. This ordinance does specifically say no additional R5s to be created in the future, so it really only pertains to the one parcel that we had been discussing earlier. This also maintains the 2018 moratorium on any new R5s, like I said, but this would also allow for consideration of a number of creative ideas. The mayor had one regarding potential bond for the water service, and there were some other ones that were brought up. I do have great confidence in our planning commission. I would likely, and have always in the past for the last years, voted with their recommendation. I intend to do so in this one as well. I just think that they have an opportunity to look at some creative solutions to this as alternatives that they could consider. So, again, we're just voting tonight to send it to them to review. I make a motion, do I need to suspend the rules on this? Yeah. I make a motion to suspend the rules and move this to third and final reading so that the process can continue and have this go back to Planning Commission.
All right, motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ansel. Would you please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules?
Reynolds?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
And Warden.
Yes.
Rules have been suspended. I turn to you again, Mr. Myers.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2022-55.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Myers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Warden. Any further discussion?
I would just like to ask that, I'm unsure on how exactly this will work when it's being passed back to the Planning Commission, but I'd like to guarantee that the proposal that was added by the mayor, as well as, I think it was something else that was brought up with, I forget if it was Mr. Millay or with regard to modular versus mobile, I'd just like to ensure that those are added or are also considered by the Planning Commission so that we have a fuller scope, if and when this does come back before us.
Can I speak to that? for a
Please,
moment?
yeah.
I don't know the viability of adding those yet. For sure, if I think they're viable additions, we will definitely look to how those could be integrated, and I'll keep council updated on that. But currently, just off the top of my head tonight, without thinking of those ahead of tonight, I'm not really sure the viability of those.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No problem.
One of the questions I had, which is indirectly related to this, was the previous conversation, we were led to understand that the state had a specific agency that was handling a lot of the care, maintenance, attachment, usage issues, not so much usage, but maintenance issues related to mobile homes and how the parks are operated. Has there been, in light of all, knowing full well that this has been an ongoing conversation for at least 2 or 3 weeks, has there been any further discussion with the current agency in terms of, has any of that changed, or is that still the same situation in terms of how it's handled?
We're not aware of any changes to that. I was going to ask.
But you never asked.
We're not aware.
You haven't asked.
No, because it
Okay.
changed in 2018, so. and
Well,
I can tell you, Tim, I have asked Tim that question, and he said that nothing has changed that he is aware of at this point.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Beitendijk?
Oh, well, yes.
If I could comment, I thought the question that Ms. Warden brought up about whether these would be considered, our law director said that he really hasn't had a chance to visit on that or think that through. So might I suggest considering tabling this until he gets a chance to review and get back to you at the next council meeting, or before, either through email or written context?
Well, I think what Ms. Warren says, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, that we just she wanted to get some assurances that these other options would be at least explored and maybe not only explored, but discussed with the Planning Commission to see if there's something that has some validity and could be added or incorporated in it. I think that's all she was asking for, is assurances that these other ideas that were discussed tonight would be looked into and hopefully, if they have viability, presented to the planning commission. She'd like it done before Christmas. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I think, yes, I think you interpreted what I was asking. I just want the planning commission to be able to, hear the possibilities that we discussed this evening and see if they're viable and, through their expertise as well.
Would the council, the planning commission be able to make recommendations to add any of those things that you find that are possibly legal? So they don't have to up or down this exact ordinance. That isn't, because usually it goes the other way, right? So they have the opportunity to amend and change and recommend and, okay. So okay. I think with your council, they'll do just fine with reviewing those. So.
Yeah, I'm satisfied that you'll
I understand the
abide by
intention, Mayor,
request.
though, thank you, though, the point being that we want to clarify as best we can, but I think we'll be able to hopefully do that, and again, if it can't happen due to schedules or timing
Yeah.
before the next meeting, we can always postpone that, so.
Seeing nothing further, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Reynolds?
Yes.
Cavan?
No.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
And Warden?
Yes.
All right, resolution number 2022-55 is alive, as Mr. Druschel had hopefully remarked in the committee meeting. We have no one from the public to speak, so now the miscellaneous portion for council. So we'll start with Mr. Cavan.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Mr. Myers.
I just want to thank Marty Starkey. She's left this evening, but she's done a wonderful job, and it's been great working with her for the last number of years, the years I've been on council anyway. And I wish her the best in her retirement, and welcome Rob Wells, the new person for the district. That's all.
Mr. Sanders.
Just, again, a reminder, December 5th, 6:30, Finance Committee meeting. We'll have the full presentation from the city as well as the hospital as well.
Okay. Mr. Ansel.
Yes, I just want to highlight the unique collaboration with the ped tax allocation. We do this annually, and for the collective efforts of the three entities involved, it's very refreshing that we don't have major challenges in how we allocate those substantial funds, and it is vital to their mission. They work so well and effectively as a team, and it's very reassuring. So kudos to the teamwork with the three entities involved. And we'll miss Marty. Rob's got big shoes to fill in that role and capacity, so good luck. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay, Ms. Warden.
Thank you. I would just want to thank the finance director and his team for putting together what appears to be the next month of light reading that we all have before us. So I assume we can all contact you with our questions that I'm sure might arise. But yeah, and I'll just reiterate, thank you very much to Marty Starkey, and welcome to Rob Wells. So thank you.
And finally, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, talking about the bed tax takes me back to many years ago when you were on city council, I believe. And I was on the Main Street Board, and we were pushing that initiative. And at that time, there wasn't that much enthusiasm for it because they didn't see it generating that much money, and they didn't think it was going to be worth the effort. And it's one of those things. I've done plenty of things that turned out badly that I won't bring up and tell you about, but that's one of those things that, looking back, really worked out very well. So hats off to the council at that time for doing that, and It's turned out really well. Some clarification maybe for the public as much as anything, because I think council understands that. But the legislation we addressed tonight was a little confusing, having the two pieces there. And we left the one on first reading, the other one got approved, Mr. Meyer's legislation. And that's because they're at different stages of the process. 2022-34, which was the administration's proposal, had already been to Planning Commission and been approved and came to us with their recommendation. So it's ready for us to act on. Mr. Meyer's resolution 2022-55, it originated here, has not been to Planning Commission yet, so by ordinance, city code, it's got to go back to Planning Commission for their review and input. And depending on what they do with it there, we'll see it back here again at some point in the future. So just a little bit of clarification there. Nobody should read a whole lot into the fact that we approved one and not the other than the fact that they're at a different procedural stage. And again, a reminder that the public hearing on 2022-34 is December 5th, and would hope that anybody interested would attend that. Also want to put a thank you in for everybody that helped with Winter Wonderland. Chief Saley, congratulations for getting Santa safely off the rooftop once again. I think, I had this momentary thought, like, what if that goes badly? All of a sudden we're in the national news for all the wrong reasons, and you don't even want to think about that.
Chief Saley, I think if you drop Santa, we'll get that new ladder truck you want.
He wants presents under his tree. He wouldn't even think of that.
And I'll end with happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hope everybody has a chance to get together with family and friends, and safe travels for those that have to travel.
Well, you should thank Mr. Druschel because he knocked a number of years off of your age by saying you were playing basketball in the 80s.
I was doing the math on that thing, and I don't know.
There are a number of untruths in there.
Not off by more than 10 years.
He'll take the 10 years.
The basketball stardom was not true either. There's too many people alive that know that.
And I see Mr.
Motion to
Ansel has
adjourn, Mr. President.
moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Myers, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving, one and all.